Welcome back to the Protestant Reformer. I'm Gordon McGee from Go Stand and Preach, and Project 2025 has made its way all the way to the stages of the BET Awards. Let's roll the tape.
Time for us to play chess, not checkers. It's about making decisions that will affect us as human beings, our careers, our next generations to come. Did you know that it is now a crime to be homeless? Pay attention. It's not a secret. Look it up. They are attacking our most vulnerable citizens. The Project 2025 plan is not a game. Look it up.
Well. Now, I don't align myself with any particular party, left or right. If you would have asked me, it's the same bird. But today we'll be speaking about the prophetic implications of Project 2025, the biblical prophetic implications of Project 2025. If you haven't been over at Go Stand and Preach on TikTok, you've never heard me discuss this before. We'll be getting into it today, going to unpack it hopefully, so that you can understand what it is and what are the prophetic implications of Project 2025. Let's start with what is Project 2025. Let's roll some more footage on that, and then I'll delve in and give you some more understanding.
Spearheaded by conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, is a years in the making, 900-plus page presidential transition plan giving Team Trump a detailed blueprint for a potential second term. That blueprint would radically remake the federal government, if executed, with its stated goal being, quote, to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. The project is built on 4 pillars, which go well beyond previous transition efforts. There's the policy agenda, personnel, training, and a 180-day playbook to execute the think tank's plans. Many authors of the blueprint are former Trump officials.
And here are some of the concerns about Project 2025.
Meantime, and this is something that hasn't been discussed a whole lot, so we're going to get into something called Project 2025. A leading conservative think tank is weighing in on what a second Trump presidency might look like. Project 2025 includes a massive overhaul to the federal government as we know it. And this is not just rumor. This is all based on actual stated goals that Donald Trump has said over and over again for the past 3.5 years.
Trump promises an unabashedly imperial presidency, one that would turn the Justice Department against critics, deport millions of people in the U.S. illegally, slap 10% tariffs on thousands of products, fire perhaps tens of thousands of government staff deemed insufficiently loyal.
I know this is MSNBC, but deporting them illegally, but aren't the people being deported illegals? Aren't they here illegally? I don't know if I'm missing something, but let's.
Now, the leader of the group, by way of the Heritage Foundation, is a guy by the name of Kevin Roberts. And this week, he was talking about the
Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, keep that in mind.
Whole thing on Steve Bannon's podcast. And if you're watching, you're realizing that the guy you're about to see is not Steve Bannon, but former Virginia Congressman Dave Bratz. That's because Steve Bannon's in prison now. Roberts says he's predicting a, quote, new American revolution. But listen to what he had to say about what it would take to make that happen.
I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
You catch that? Will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. I don't know what kind of point he's trying to make there, but that rhetoric has a lot of people concerned. This is not locker room talk. This is not political rhetoric. This, of course, comes in the same week the Supreme Court ruled that Trump has absolute immunity for, quote, official acts made as president, which means whatever Trump decides to do, should he return to office, there really aren't the same guide rails this time around.
What we should be talking to each other about is not just about an existential threat to our children and grandchildren. It's what are you going to do in the next 6 months? Because come January, if Donald Trump is president, our lives will change radically.
We've seen the concerns, and here is a response to some of those concerns. Let's go over to Fox News.
Latest boogeyman is Project 2025 to scare you into voting against Donald Trump.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I've got a lot of friends who are very, very involved in the Trump administration, very close and good friends with the with former President Trump and people that work in the administration and people who were actually in the administration.
Boogeyman, just you heard it here, just boogeyman. That's just the perspective from the other side of the aisle, as they would say.
Who are all working on this project. But frankly, I'm sitting here in Washington, have friends in it. I've seen some of the products from it. It's an ongoing conversation. There's nothing magical. This is just the hard work of putting together plans for governing and for coming in and doing the work that a president will need to do, issuing executive orders, taking the actions they need to take to undo the damage of a lawless, tyrannical Biden regime. Let's be very clear. This administration, in addition to a scandal covering up the incompetency of a president, they've had a Manchurian candidate, a Manchurian president. They have had a cadre of people around them advancing a radical, progressive Democrat agenda that this administration has been foisting on the American people unconstitutionally and tyrannically, from the student loan fiasco and ignoring the Supreme Court, to all that they've been doing with open borders, endangering the American people, lying about all manners of policies in addition to the mental state of the president. You now need a president, President Trump, to come in and undo that damage. Project 25 is about making sure we marshal our ability and forces in the executive branch and legislative branch to undo that damage and carry this country forward. Nothing more, nothing less. And these are good Americans who are working on it.
We shall see. We will go and access the document ourselves. All right, so let's go over to 2025.org. Let's get it from the horse's mouth, right? I think the breakdown was pretty honest and straightforward. Building now for conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. The pillars, as was mentioned. And it's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. The project will build on 4 pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration. Now, if you go over here, there's a button here, tab called, Playbook. Click on that Playbook. It will launch the following page, the 180-day playbook. Time is short. The 4th pillar of Project 2025 is our 180-day transition playbook, which is called the Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. Now, if you click on that link, it will launch and take you to the PDF. This is where we want to be, friends. It will launch and take you to the PDF. Now, once you're here, you want to go to page 622 on the PDF, and the page number on the document itself is 589. Okay, so let's talk about Project 2025. So we have a conservative plan, certain policies, as you've heard, a thought to correct and right the wrongs of the radical left and to get the United States of America back to where it needs to be. Few moving parts here, but what does this have to do and how does this impact us at a spiritual level, at a prophetic level, at a biblical level? Well, right here on page 589, electronic page number 622, it talks about Sabbath rest, friends. Sabbath rest. For those of you who may have never heard of the word Sabbath before, at the beginning of time, the creation of this planet recorded in the book of Genesis, God, the God of heaven, created the earth in 6 literal days, and he rested and blessed the 7th day of the week. The Bible tells us that God said the evening and the morning were the first day. So the 7th day of the week begins Friday sunset and ends Saturday sunset. And this day, God set aside, he blessed, he sanctified, which means he set aside for holy use, for holy purpose. He did not need rest, but it was to commemorate the fact that he created the earth in 6 literal days. He goes on as far to say in Exodus chapter 20, let's jump over there together. We find these words beginning in verse 8 about the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. you should be asking yourself, man, why is a political document speaking about the Sabbath? This should be why is a political document speaking about the Sabbath, which has everything to do with worship? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day, not the first day, friends, but the seventh day is the Sabbath, definite article, is the Sabbath of Yahweh thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. I would like to submit to you that the blessing and the hallowing of the seventh day has never been removed or changed by God himself. Now let's get back over to this 2025 document. Okay, so we're back here reading the 2025 mandate for leadership. Sabbath rest, it says. God ordained the Sabbath as a day of rest. And until very recently, the Judeo-Christian tradition sought to honor that mandate by moral and legal regulation of work on that day. Please take note of that. This is true historically, and it's wrong morally. Okay, so it says God ordained the Sabbath as a day of rest. It should be the day of rest, But there were other days in the Jewish calendar that were also Sabbaths or days of rest. So, and until very recently, the Judeo-Christian tradition, okay, so I want you to think about Puritans, 13 colonies from that period. The Judeo-Christian tradition, the tradition sought to honor that mandate by moral and legal regulation. That means in the history of this country, there has been legislation trying to enforce a day of rest. And you will find that as early as 1610 in the colony of Virginia, where they issued a Sunday law, a Sunday law. Moreover, a shared day off makes it possible for families and communities to enjoy time off together, rather than as autonomized individuals, and provides a healthier cadence of life for everyone. Sounds so good and so positive, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Until you start to legislate it. Unfortunately, that communal day of rest has eroded under the pressures of consumerism and secularism, especially for low-income workers. Now, I want you to notice what's going to happen here, which gets very scary very fast. Congress should encourage communal rest by amending the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA, to require that workers be paid time and a half for hours worked on the Sabbath. Now, friends, biblically, historically speaking, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, Yeshua, he was risen the first day of the week, which is Sunday. The Sabbath is the seventh day of the week. So look what they're calling the Sabbath. That day would default to Sunday. Sunday is the first day of the week, friends, not the seventh day. God did not bless and sanctify the Sunday, except for employers with a sincere religious observance of a Sabbath at a different time. No, you mean the Sabbath, not a Sabbath, the Sabbath at a different time, e.g., example, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. They're calling the true Sabbath some other Sabbath and then calling Sunday the Sabbath. This is unbiblical. The obligation would transfer to that period instead. So they're making some accommodations supposedly. Houses of worship, to the limited extent, they may have FLSA covered employees and employers legally required to operate around the clock, such as hospitals and first responders, would be exempt, as would workers otherwise exempt from overtime. All right, let's just talk about why this is wrong in general. You do not want a government legislating the first 4 commandments of the 10 commandments. The first 4 of the 10 commandments deal with our relationship with God. Who who you worship, how you worship, when you worship, where you worship. Okay, is the essential context. You have no other gods before me. Don't take the Lord and name thy God in vain. Amen. Don't worship any idols, and keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. Don't forget, right? Remember, don't forget the seventh day of the week. Don't replace it. Don't change it with the first day of the week. It's very clear, very, very clear. So when governments come and they are controlled by the church, when they're controlled by religious entities, religious thought patterns, religious leaders, we always have a problem historically speaking. What we see during the Dark Ages, or what is now termed the Middle Ages, when the papacy controlled the state, there was much, much bloodshed. So many Protestant Christians that were continuing the apostolic faith lost their lives at the rack, at the stake, in the Colosseums, etc., but were killed because the papacy had become the corrector of heretics. You do not want a religio-political power. We do not want church and state unified. What I see, what you are seeing in this document is that very unification. And friends, let me tell you, this will lead to bloodshed. This will lead to a fulfillment, I believe, sets the groundwork, can potentially put in place what we see happening in Revelation chapter 13. I'm going to jump over there in just a moment so I can show you the potential prophetic implications of Project 2025. Now, I want you to ask yourself, everybody who's listening right now, does this sound like something you want to see happen in the United States of America? Now, we know that there is Christian nationalism. I'm going to cover that on another episode. Christian nationalism, right-leaning Christians in the United States of America want to keep the United States Christian, and they believe that the government has an obligation to do so. Friends, we are so far long gone from being able to say that we're going to maintain this nation as a Christian nation when we've legalized pornography and everything else under the sun that is wicked, and the level of sex trafficking and whatever else is going on. So I know there is a desire to make America great again, quote unquote. But biblically speaking, friends, there's no saving the country. There's no saving the world. And you're definitely not going to save it by legislating or forcing people to be Christian through legislation. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? This is what this document is proposing, is implementing to, I want to say, a greater than a lesser degree. And this is what Christian nationalism, right? These are the same sentiments that come from that think tank. We're going to force people to be Christian. And it starts out very gentle, very light. Let me just read you. Let's go over to Revelation 13. I want you to see this from the Bible. Okay, I think you have an understanding of what's going on. We have a Christian think tank that is saying that we need to legislate Christianity or morality amongst the people. Listen, yes, the last 6 commandments, no stealing, no killing, honor thy mother, thy father, honor marriage, etc. Yes, legislate that. Fine. But the first 4 commandments dealing with worship, you cannot legislate. You cannot go against someone else's conscience. You cannot force someone to love Jesus. You cannot legislate someone to love Jesus. You can't legislate someone to worship. Anywhere in the world where you see a religio-political power, where religion has control of the state, people die. When there's a caliphate, when you're dealing with Muslims, people die. Catholicism, when they were in charge for 1,260 years, people died. Where the government controls religion and free thought and tries to dictate your people die. The Chinas of the world, communism of the world, this is not what we want. If we do not learn from our history, a history we ignore, a history that we are not familiar with, is a history we are destined to repeat. And friends, this is the direction we are headed prophetically, and there's no change in it. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to Revelation chapter 13. Okay, in Revelation chapter 13, there are 2 beasts, all right? Revelation is a book full of symbols and symbolism. And we know that a beast represents a king or kingdom. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 17 and verse 23 tells us that. The Bible explains itself. You and I don't have to guess. So there is a first beast power in Revelation chapter 13. And then there is a second beast that arises after that beast, or as that beast is going down, as it's received this deadly wound, this second beast rises and comes to power. In verse 11 says, and I beheld another beast, our kingdom, nation, coming up out of the earth. That means a place of low population density and diversity, because we know that waters represent peoples, multitudes, tongues, and nations. All right. And he had two horns, two governing powers. A horn is also a leader, kingdom, king, power, governing power. He had two powers or horns like a lamb. Okay. The lamb only represents one thing in the Bible, and that's Jesus, the Lamb of God, Yeshua. It says, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. A nation speaks, friends, through legislation. Lamb-like, Christ-like nation speaking like a dragon, legislating like a dragon. First application of the dragon, Satan. Revelation chapter 12 is what I'm thinking of. Second application, pagan Rome. Amen. Stick with me. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth, no matter if you're agnostic, no matter if you're atheist, no matter if you're Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, don't care what your thought process is, Scientology, causes the earth. Everyone is involved. And them which dwell therein to worship the first beast. Political power, legislating worship. Forcing false worship. We're only supposed to worship God, not a beast power. Will cause them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed, that beast. In Revelation 13, 1 through 10, the whole world will be made to worship him. Verse 13, he doeth great wonders, so he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth. So there's suggestions, legislation, then there's miracles. A lot is going on to encourage the entire world to worship the first beast power. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the first beast, in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, suggesting, encouraging. Let's legislate it, which had the wound by the sword and did live. Let's make an image to the beast. Let's be like the beast. Let's be identical to the first beast power. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, legislate, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Nation enforcing, legislating false worship. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. We're going to encourage you nicely, maybe some fines, then some inducements. We'll do some miracles to deceive you. If that doesn't work, you won't be able to buy or sell. If that doesn't work, we'll just kill you. We'll legislate a death decree. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name or the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. He that have understanding, count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, a few things. One, if you want to get more information on the beast, who the beast is, what the mark of the beast is, who the two beasts are in Revelation 13, you're right here, Go Stand and Preach. Go over to one of my playlists, Pillars of Prophecy, Future of America, and you can find out all the information in great, great, great detail. I just want to bring to your attention here in this short video that what we're seeing in Project 2025, let's get back over there, is exactly what we're reading in Revelation 13. We have a nation that is telling, a Christian-led nation, quote unquote, conservative think tanks, Christian conservative think tanks that want to have Congress create laws that encourage Sunday worship in place of true Sabbath worship. Listen, the United States, any government should not be legislating any form of worship, any component of worship. I don't want the United States government telling me that I need to go to church on the seventh day of the week, even though it's the correct day, the Sabbath. That needs to be left to the consciences and dictates of men's own conscience. So there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down if you get into the Heritage Foundation. But Kevin D. Roberts, PhD, trustee. Let's just read what the Heritage Foundation claims about itself. or reports about itself. Every day, the Heritage Foundation is building an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourishes. Okay, I was reading from their website. I'm at heritage.org. Heritage's mission is to formulate and promote public policies based on the principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. Traditional American values, I believe, means Christianity, evangelical, right-leaning Christianity. That's what that means, which carries on such traditions as Sunday worship in place of the Sabbath, that they have interwoven into a political document. Friends, this should be concerning, also a fulfillment of Bible prophecy potentially if this plan gets rolled out and implemented here in the United States. And I think and I know others will follow suit. Be on the lookout for another episode we'll do, another post we're going to do on Sunday laws in America and also around the world. I'm Gordon McGee, and this is The Protestant Reformer.